Well, it feels like I only just did a video on this, but we have another update to the ongoing idea that money from tariffs is going to be paid out to the people in the form of $2,000 stimulus checks. Trump just doubled down on the idea, mentioning it again on Truth Social. Let's take a look at what he just said. All money left over from the $2,000 payments made to low and middle income USA citizens from the massive tariff income pouring into our country from foreign countries, which will be substantial, will be used to substantially pay down national debt. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And that's the second post he's made that mentioned the $2,000 payments in the last about 24 hours or 2 days. I mean, he made another post yesterday. And in a separate post on Truth Social also today, he said that he wants to give $10,000 checks to air traffic controllers who did not take time off during their unpaid period during the government shutdown, which looks like it's getting sorted out this week. They've come up with a plan to end it. But anyway, that is a smaller amount of money because obviously there's less air traffic controllers than there are, people in the whole country. So that probably seems likely that that actually could happen. What I want to talk about today, though, is the stimulus checks, the tariff stimulus. By mentioning the $2,000 payments again, he has reinforced the idea that he really does want to do it. But he's also said that money left over will go to paying down debt, which gives the impression that it will not use up all of the tariff revenue to do this. At least he doesn't think it will. So let's actually work out if this is possible, okay? Let's look at the possibility if this is done as $2,000 per household first. Now, there are 128 million households in the US, according to 2023 data, which is reasonably up to date. That's what shows up on Google. About 26% of those households earn over $150,000 a year, so I'm going to exclude them, okay? So we just have low and middle income households. I remember for the COVID stimulus, the cutoff was around $140,000 a year or so, so that's why I'm using that 150,000 number, okay? It's a nice round number. So that takes us to 94,720,000 households. If we give each of those households $2,000, that would cost around $189 billion. Now, as of the most recent report that we have from the Treasury, which gives us data up until the end of September, customs duties, which are tariffs, brought in $195 billion for the year so far. And in September, which was an element of that figure, they brought in $30 billion. So if October, November, and December each bring in the same amount, all right, $30 billion per month, that would be $90 billion for the quarter, and that takes us to $285 billion for the year. So if you did give every middle to low income household $2,000, that would leave $96 billion to pay down debt with. Although that doesn't make that much sense since the budget still has a deficit of over $1.7 trillion. So you'd be paying off $96 billion in debt and then still adding $1.7 trillion in new debt. But you could look at it from the point of view that Trump will use that $96 billion to pay off high interest debt, and then as interest rates come down next year, the new debt that is taken on to cover the budget deficit will be at lower interest rates, decreasing the interest payment portion of the US federal budget, which currently stands at $970 billion for 2025, all right? More than we spend on the military. So there seems to be a bit of a method going on here. But what about if you gave $2,000 to every person who filed a tax return? Well, there are approximately 150 million tax returns filed in the US each year as of 2022 data. So if you again assume that 74% of them fit the income category, right? Middle to low income, then you get 113,220,000 tax returns. And if you give $2,000 to people for every tax return filed, then it costs $226 billion. So the price starts going up. But about half of those tax returns were filed by joint filers, all right, married couples. So there are actually two people on the return. So if each of the adults on the tax return gets $2,000, we have to add another 50% to the number of people, all right? That takes us to 229 million people. And if you give 74% of those people, i.e. the ones that are probably fitting the income brackets, middle to low income, $2,000, then it costs $338 billion, and it starts to go above the total projected tariff revenue for 2025. But maybe not above the total projected tariff revenue for 2026, because tariffs didn't start immediately Trump came into office. There was a couple, 2 or 3 months, break in between him coming to office and actually starting the tariffs. So tariff revenue in 2026 very well could be above 300 billion, maybe even 400 billion. So it actually might end up that this is doable depending on which year's tariff revenue we're going by, and also who ends up being eligible for the check, if it's done by household, by taxpayer, etc. When we had the COVID stimulus checks, you had to file a tax return to be eligible, okay? So it was anyone who'd filed a return regardless of if they paid tax or not. But if it was a married filing jointly return, both people, both adults on the tax return were eligible for their own check, and then there were smaller checks for kids. So if it was done in the same way as with COVID, it wouldn't work based on 2025 tax revenue, but it might just work if 2026 tax revenue is higher, which it probably will be. But, you know, the numbers are very close. So if Trump really wants to do this and have some money left over to pay down the debt, there probably is a way to do it. He's going to have to end the filibuster first, though, and be able to pass it through the Senate with just a simple majority in order to get it done. But guys, if you don't want to wait until that process happens and you get your stimulus check, if you want some free money a little bit quicker, why not check out Rakuten? It is a cashback portal where you go to their site, and just by clicking through their website to your favorite store like Macy's, Saks, Bloomingdale's, Best Buy, Lululemon, and thousands more, you can earn extra cashback on top of what you already earn on whatever credit card you use. For Black Friday, they will be doing 15 to 20% cashback at many stores. And you can even redeem it for American Express points, so 1 cent in cashback turns into 1 Amex points. That can give you even more value in some cases if you know how to use them. Some elevated cashback rates are already starting now, and things are going really hot up around Black Friday. Best thing is, if you sign up through my link below, you get a $50 cashback bonus after your first purchase. Do check it out. It's such a no-brainer deal, especially in the holiday shopping season. All right, guys, please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.